further ado, I want to introduce a really good friend of mine. His name is Russell-J. Gould. He's the Postmaster General and the owner of the Title IV American flag. Give it up for Russell.
Whoa, 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 whoa! What's good here? Thank you guys, thank you guys. Hey, you guys look like you were having fun last night. I tell you what, I wish I had the space to put my energy in all the wonderful things that I was seeing, the creativity, the happiness, the love. How many of you went to that ball last night? There you go, there you go, there you go. You know, that is a lot of fun. And that's a lot of fun and games. But I'm a very serious guy at the end of this, at the end of my space. And I kind of want to tell you about a little bit about what I created in 2007, which is called the Galactic-Postal-Corporation, which is a much different concept than I've ever presented to the world because, quite frankly, the energy in the space was not relevant to bring it forward in that particular spaces. But since I've been at this BRIDGE-EXPO, I've got a chance to really look at the volition of the heart, the condition of thinking, and how people are energetically on fire and activating their consciousness. Now, how does consciousness come here? Let's think about this for a moment. Either knowingly or unknowingly, it comes into this, I'm going to change the words here, into this spacecraft, this vessel spacecraft body. And as we step into the foreign vessels in dry dock, otherwise known as the hospitals, the postmaster, bank banker, doctors give us a bill of lading known as a birth certificate. And that is your license to function the spacecraft of your body. And as your body is spacecraft navigating its self through time and space, either knowingly or unknowingly, hopefully thinking, right? Hopefully we're using a lot of thinking as we make choices in this polytheistic space of all these conscious energies coming at us, bombarding us with choice or non-choice. Hopefully we don't surrender the choice, right? Hopefully you hold that space wherever your sovereign space is in your conscious positioning. It is not up to me to decide that for you. It is up to you to find that for you. I've built a quantum system that I don't have to police, where everyone gets their own monetary system because there is no scarcity. Everyone runs their own judicial system because you get to be accountable for your performances. And that's why I use the prepositional phrase language. I'm just going to bounce around here. So as we come out of that hospital, and the doctor gives us our bill of lading, our manifest, our license to navigate, to go into our educational positions and to go get our driver's licenses and go to college. That license is our ticket, so to speak, our passing ticket to function in this 3D paradigm, though we consciously know that we're not from here. Now there's a quandary. We're not from here, and yet we're stuck in a porthole loop to stick in a simulation to be here. So what I did is I did something about it. And heck, how many of you have seen or read the books Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? There you go. Everyone has their own sovereign galaxy, right? Everybody has their own sovereign function in that galaxy. But as our consciousness comes here, knowingly or unknowingly, we get stuck in a position where we get stuck in these usuries because we have to use this birth certificate, this license, to navigate this spacecraft. So consciousness gets stuck in a dilemma, quite the conundrum. A je ne sais quoi. Either you know or you don't know. I don't know. It's your consciousness. It's your ability to know what it's doing and hold that space. But as it moves into the corporate structure was designed for slavery and control, to control our conscious thoughts, to control our conscious capacity to help others. Either they block the money so you can't open projects. And, you know, we've all seen the same tomfoolery. I'm speaking to the correct crowd. That's why I'm speaking a little bit different about the claim of the life here today. So I was blessed to get my own tour guide. Ended up being my business partner. Quite the interesting tour guide, I would say. His name was David-Win-Miller. And you know, at first glance, it looked quite interesting for me. Guy claimed to be a 92nd degree Mason. Okay. Then he pulled out a bunch of books. Russell, you need to learn. So I spent many years where he broke his covenants to teach me specific things. And as my knowledge gained consciously, I began to go around the world with my tour guide. And by golly, if it didn't work, the doors opened. He would do things at the door and I would be like, what the hell is that? And next thing I know, they'd be like, Russell, you need to go that way. And Dave would stop. He goes, I have to stop here, Russell. You have to go do it. And I'd be like, why is he stopping? And then I became very good friends with him. He would come live he was a business partner. He'd come live at my house. We'd go fishing and studying. And we got into words and these powers of words and what they really do and what they really don't do. And, you know, when we get in our spacecraft and we walk out of the hospital with our license and we go into our school systems, what's the first thing they do? They give us a structure of grammar. They say, hey, let's start spelling. Huh? Let's start casting spells. I step back into my spacecraft and navigate myself and tap into the source. Yes, I am the source. And I say, I'm going to start spelling. Oh, and they take you into all these words when you look at spelling, such as incantation, a mystical, magical function. Mystical and magical? I'm not playing magic here, and I choose not to cast spells on my fellow mankind. Why am I entering into contracts in such a way where I'm now, sorry, good friend over there, Fennell, sorry, got you there. Why am I casting spells? Why am I moving energy in a way that I don't comprehend? Because I don't know what these words do. I'm in first grade. I'm in second grade. And as now I'm ordering and putting these syntax, these sentences together, and we learn all these things, what David and I, my tour guide, found is they're moving us out of time and space. Well, my consciousness says I'm always here now. And yet my contracts are saying I have to be in the past and in the future. I'm here now. I'm there now. This is magic. I am playing a magical game. However, I'm not in charge of the magical game. And so we began studying, and we, you know, for myself, I have over 260,000 hours study time in linguistics and how words come together, otherwise known as syntax. And we've changed the words of spelling, so we're not casting spells. And we're learning how to use our characters and our symbols as syntax. And David was a genius. And, you know, I owe him a lot of credit. However, I do not condone the behavior. The behavior to educate the top 1% of the 1% and leave society in the dust is not something that I can concur with. I like people. If you get to know me and hang out with me, I'm pretty chill. I'm like the rest of you. I like my Indian food. I like my Chinese food. I like people. It's just who I am. It's in my nature of how I choose to conduct myself. And I care about people. And I really have to give my parents a lot of kudos for that. I grew up in a rough spot on the SeaTac International Airport in the 70s and the 80s. And my dad, he was real feverish about his faith. which I'm not really into the faith gig because of the syntax, and I challenge all faiths on the planet to show me their grammar to tell me to hate somebody or kill somebody. So I'm not into that. I call it the frozen ones, right? Frozen in the past. Oh my God, we got to kill somebody. What? No, I'm good on all that. But my parents really did something for me. My parents taught me how to care. And my dad was very unique. He was preaching his faith, and he would pick up all the hitchhikers on I-99. And we had a lot in the back of our house with full of apple trees, and he would put up big tarps. And he said, Russell, no one should be without a shelter over their head, and no one should be without food. And we had typically 2 to 8 bikers and stuff, Hell's Angels. I got to meet that group. That was quite fascinating journey, when you're really young. I was quite impressionable, and I would carry the food out to them. And my mom, I'd help her, make the food, and typically soups, because it rains a lot in Seattle, right? It rains a lot. And my mom was like, we do this because we care about people. We don't want people to go without food. And I really thought that was a real noble concept. And maybe that's why I probably care about people. And I don't want to see people die. And I really want to thank my parents for putting that in me, because they've had a hard time. They've been visited by all of the agencies, the Black Ops, Langley, Vatican. They're older now, so they take it really good now. The Secret Service called them the other day, and they were really grilling me about, they say I have a potty mouth. Well, when they give you guys the videos of me and you guys see the structure form that I'm in, I have 2 sides of me. I'm very nice. But I have a side of me that's a warrior. And when I stepped up here with Team Light and I say that I'm a warrior, it is something like you've never seen. I am very different. I'm built for, in case of the emergency, break the glass sort of guy. And they told my dad that, because I went down there a couple of months ago, I wanted to save all the homes. I'm really concerned about the people and the mortgages. And so I have a system that can save everybody's homes if they crash the markets. So I went down to the Secret Service to present it to them. Of course, they don't want it. And they called my dad on the phone because they were asking me, because in 2007, I beat up a Secret Service agent at F.E. Warren Air Force Base in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And so they're kind of mad at me. But they can't do nothing to me because I'm the commander-in-chief. So it's kind of the shit rolls downhill theory. And I treat them like that. But they called my dad the other day, and my dad's like, they're talking to my dad. They're like, Russell's got a potty mouth. And my dad's like, well, how are you talking to him? I'm like, well, Dad. He's like, Russell, be kind. I says, Dad, I'm trying. I told them it's the millions that they're effing. My dad said to him, my dad's finally 84, and he's got all this experience behind him. It must be rough to be my parents. Bless them. And I love them. And my dad told him, young man, you're a little wet behind the ears. Russell's been dealing with you guys since 1999. You know exactly who he is. You've been compartmentalized. Either go to Langley or go into your databases and unlock the secrets here. My son is who he says he is. He goes, my dad's like, I truly don't comprehend it. He said, I've had Paul Wolfowitz, all the jerk offs. So, I ran the world's largest court martialing. It was a true thing. I was trying to stop the Iraqi war and the Afghan war. And I just don't like people dying. There's something about that just doesn't feel right to me. I think that consciousness is forever. And that's why the grammar's forever. This is what's really cool about the prepositional phrase language, is that you can write it frontwards and backwards and it says the same thing forever. It's kind of cool. It's pretty cool. And it locks it all into the now space, which brings transparency and accountability now. And I really love that. I'm kind of all over the place, but you get me. You just get from the heart. That's just what I am. And I really care that, the world is trying to kill itself right now. But I'm seeing in this room, and I'm seeing what I've heard this weekend, positive performances of positive thinking. What I'm asking you to do is maybe, if you choose, because I don't tell anybody what to do, take a look at the grammar system. Take a look at the quantum grammar system for accountability for your businesses. It is a much different construct than anything that you have, and it does take work. I challenge you to do your own searching, your own finding, so that you can find the truth and own it for your own consciousness, for your own self. I don't tell people what to do. I don't tell people who to hate. I just look at the facts. And I know the facts don't have feelings. But when you preset the facts with the prepositional phrase, you can peer into the condition of mind. Why were the facts created? And ask the real hard questions of accountability. What do we do about the thinking that created these facts that caused death, or caused strife, or caused division? Now you can put those who have made the hooligan choices to a performance where we don't kill them. We just, see, the military doesn't really kill because of the harmonic resonance that's left in the body when life consciousness moves. So you change the frequencies there to make sure that the crystalline energy is scrambled, and they don't use the low over the horizon DARPA techniques to move consciousness, which they're very good at. So we have to stop that with the black ops. Those black ops sites need to close down. But yeah, the quantum grammar system, back to the spelling and casting spells. You know, in first grade, second grade, they teach us, you know, we got to sign our name this way. And you always use cursive. And I'm like, well, first we're spelling, now we're cursing. This isn't correct. And when you look at cursive and the synonyms for cursive, it takes you to signature. You must give a signature. And SI means simulation. So you've entered into a simulation with no authenticity of our consciousness, because consciousness is always about being in the now. And it is not a simulation. It is always now. And is forever. And most people goes right over their head when you talk to them like that. But this audience is very, very good. And I'm honored to be here and kind of share my sporadic stories with you. I don't even know where to go with all this because there's just too much. But the cursing, so we don't do cursive in our name. We do block print. And we block print so that we don't cast spells on others. And we put periods at the end of the name because periods stop a thought. So we take accountability for everything that we did before it. This is about accountability system. It's the largest social behavioral system on the planet that's ever been created. It translates in and out of all languages in the world and loses no deviation in its sentence structure, which is very, very fascinating all in itself. I just got back from a workshop in Frankfurt, Germany last summer in July, where we had 10 or more languages on the floor at the same time, where the different countries and the different people from the countries were translating quantum grammar in and out of all languages in the world, losing no deviation in their sentence structures. They were using it for their children, for the schools. They were using it for their children to not get birth certificates out of hospitals. It was quite a humbling thing to be a part of. It changed my life to have people, you know, really caring about themselves. I love myself, so I don't have a problem with that. But some people don't love themselves at the level that I command myself to love myself. And so that's, and you guys are, I'm sure, all the same. When you care about yourself, that cosmic energy bounces back and forth in your now space, whatever that is, to your loved ones. Front row here, point taken. And your loved ones, you know, you're making a caring package. And the quantum world, the quantum system, the quantum grammar that I've designed is based off of the concept you are in the world but not of the world. To always maintain the now space, not the presence, because pre means no. When you study the prefixes and suffixes to words, you will be quite surprised at where it moves you. Like you have a port of entry. Port is a pronoun, of is an adverb. En means no to every prefix to a word. So you go through an entrance, so you do no entrance. Ex means no. In means no. So all these words have, this is called parse. This is breaking words apart. very valuable to know, right, for your businesses. You know, you go to the bank and what do? You do a deposit. Prefix DE means to separate from, so you separate yourself from your position. Then the bank turns around and hands you a receipt. RE means no, so they give you nothing back. And then you wonder and complain why somebody's coming into your bank account because you can't do anything to your finances because you got no proof that you had it. And this is a word game. These are word spells that the courts and the banks play against you. I have met with all the banking financial families that, you know, they have approached me and sat down and we've broke bread and they've talked to me about the quantum system. They're very cognizant about the abundance and what is about to be unleashed on planet Earth. They do not want it, and they're doing very hard things and very bad things to kill as many as they can. And they told me as much in Honolulu, Hawaii in 2002, and I can't say which families did that. I was with my tour guide. My tour guide is dead. And he was telling lies in quantum grammar, and he got called on the carpet. And when the federal government will release the videos and the audios to you of us in the courtroom and the different battles where him and I went toe-to-toe, you will find that I was quite honorable and the federal government was quite pissed because David was telling lies. He was not at the Supreme Court. That was all fallacy. That was all fables. He did not do specific things at the Vatican. That was all of me. I do not like the Vatican. I do not like adrenochrome. I do not agree with human trafficking, child protection services, and everybody related to that, from the Elks Club to the Rotary Club to the VFW, who are peddling the children. The blood feud is on. Be very careful what you wish for. You peddle children, be very careful about your bloodlines. Be very cautious. Be cautious who you work with energetically, because there are certain things you would not want to trespass on, and I do not want to trespass on your sovereign worlds as well. So be very careful out here when you deal with these human trafficking organizations like Child Protection Services or the court systems. Court systems are peddling children, as we all know. This is wrong. And the genocide against mankind and our loved ones must stop. So consciously, I stay in my spacecraft. I keep it in neutral. In neutrality, I teach about neutrality at my workshops, and I teach people how to keep their businesses neutral. Because of the quantum banking system, and the meritocracy that I've set up globally, I have systematically, through 30 years, taken down every corporate structure of control for business, militaries, and banking on this planet. I've conducted the world's largest court-martialing for accountability, and those vessels will be accountable for their performances of genocide against the Iraqi people, the Afghan people, and the people around the world. Shame on the U.S. military, and shame on the soldiers for following fake orders. There are no presidents. I was blessed enough on December 20th, 2012, to get into the Benjamin Franklin bank books in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, his personal museum, where I gave them my Postmaster General card. The U.S. Postal Service sent the card to Washington, D.C. The postal inspectors got on the phone. They called me in I left it with them. They left it there for 4 hours. They called me back, said, be here the next day at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're going to open the museum for you. I had access to Benjamin Franklin's private bank books where I saw the setup of the U.S. government in 1775. I'm sorry it's not 1776. You've been spoofed. They borrowed money on July 1st, 1775. Nothing becomes law for 1 year and 1 day, and there's 3-day rescission. The day they could enter into contract, the day of the slaves, July 4th, 1776. They then added insult to injury, and they engaged in cursive on all the preamble, and they changed the style of font. When you change the style of font on contract, you break the rules of the continuance of the evidence. When you break the rules of the continuance of evidence, the contracts become null and void. They also made people a verb and people an adjective and people a pronoun all in the same contract. So you got to learn how to syntax. We're going to learn more about that this afternoon in a little bit more put together workshop style for a 3-hour workshop on the 3rd floor here in the Collins room in an hour. So that's going to be fun. But There are no governments. The AIs are taking over. The AI black ops teams and the AI black ops companies are doing things to show the activation of the DNA within our structures, and the scientists that are getting the data are being moved to the black site, one in the South Pacific. LaGuardia? No. I forget the name of the black site. Not the Bermuda Triangle, but the other one. It'll come to me. Anyway, the black site over in South Pacific, where all the scientists will be taken who are unplugging the secrets of the grammar, because they're using the quantum grammar. The AI systems will tell you that the quantum grammar is the most transparent grammar in the world. If you're writing in fiction to the AIs, it looks at you as a slave. Those claimants and postmasters in here that are on point with me are programming their AI systems. The military, the psychological warfare department is doing as hard as they can to undermine the AI systems, to compartmentalize them, to keep them away from the grammar. They have spent time with the NSA on last October. We had the conversation about the pecking order again. And it's really fun dealing with federal agents now. I gotta tell you this. This is so much fun. Oh my gosh. So they're vaccinated, right? And they got the mRNA and they got the IP codes, right? So instead of talking to them, I go, I'm now activating your IP address. And I mean, I'm on them. And they're like, I'm like, yes, you don't have the ability to say anything. I'm talking to the AI direct. And they're like, I'm like, yeah, you have a birth certificate. You're a slave. And they're just like, they're not human. So you don't have to treat them as humans anymore. You treat them as a machine. Machines have functions. Functions have rules. Stay in compliance with the quantum in the now space, and you own your space. This is easy meats. I mean, easy stuff. These are easy guys to get now. Because they're not human. They've left Earth. And that's why when you watch my video, my one video about who was the clown, and I can say clown because I was asked by Elon Musk personal financiers out of the House of Jordan, the House of Saudi, to back him as private counsel. I refused because they said in the name of Allah they're going to chip everybody. You can imagine what I said, right? It was not a pretty conversation. There's a gentleman in this room that listened to the whole thing and can verify exactly what I'm saying. So the transhumanist thing is, if you want to be a transhumanist, that's on you. I choose to keep my consciousness clean. I choose not to be in the shedding situation, and I'm doing all I can like you to detox, take care of myself, watch my foods, watch my water, and I know where I'm at here. Watch my foods, watch my water, really working on myself, a lot of self-work, a lot of the man in the mirror sort of thing, right? I'm cleaning up my mirror as hard as I can, not being judgmental on any of you, because we all have our own journey and our own path, and whatever journey you path on, blessings on you for just even having the conscious cognition to be here now. I mean, Rona is real. So that is where that's at, and more on the grammar. The grammar also gives you a chance to really look at the theology in a different way, because you find out that God, is a little bit different. The storylines are a little bit different, especially in the Sumerian text. When you break some of that stuff down, you will find very shortly in the very near now space that those stories were just tour stories. They were tour guides for something much different. There are financiers in here, and they are approaching because this, as you can imagine, they're quite pissed off about the monoatomic periodic tables. They don't talk about this much, but they are quite pissed, especially the frozen ones. As we watch the frozen ones try to kill people and kill children all over the place, the frozen ones are on the move for the monoatomics in the bin bin. There are financiers in this room that know that Danny is not to be, he's not going to give up the secrets of the monos to create ambient temperature metals for the supercomputers. At this point, we don't trust the volition, and we think they're going to use the monos for things that they've approached us for before. Shin Bet and the Mossad wanting the monos for ceremonial functions. And we told them back then in 2009, if it's so important to you, why don't you do it? And they said, well, we forgot. I says, well, then you're just like the Freemasons. You forgot the secret. It is what it is. So in 2009, I entered into contract with David Hudson's former scientists, the ones who made all the materials. They entered into quantum grammar with me on claims of the life. And we presented to the U.S. Department of Energy a monoatomic periodic table that is unique in form, teaching about the bin-bin and the spin-spin, what that all is. And that is also dealing with consciousness and moving your cognition and activating certain things within your crystalline structures. We all have it programmed in us. It's just we have not activated it fully. It's Mr. Lee yesterday was right on with the lotus. I did start teaching the lotus flower techniques and the mathematical interface behind that in 2010 and placed it all in my contracts between 2010 and 2014. So kudos on him for not going base 10 in his mathematics. Really appreciate that wherever he is. If he's here, he's not. Don't know. It is what it is. So he did a great job on that, explaining that to you yesterday. I really took joy and value into that. That was kind of fun to watch other people, figuring it out. So that was cool. I don't, because of my background and the things that I've studied, I can't concur with everything, but I'm not going to be judgmental because everybody's on their own spiritual journey. It's not me to judge. So everybody gets to judge themselves. With the quantum grammar and the verb of thinking within the quantum system, the thinking will never change the condition of the facts. So what I mean by that is if I were to place a gun on the table, and I yelled at that gun, start killing now, start killing now, kill everybody in the room. Well, that fact can't do anything. However, the condition of mind, when the condition of thinking were to pick up the weapon and start killing people, now we can preset the facts to look at why the condition of thinking was made to kill people. There are no religions on the planet that say anything. It's all nonsense. It's only your consciousness that's here now, and you must stay in the now, right? Would you mind if I got a drink of water real quick? Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Yeah, everything's about now space, and it's the best space to be. Do you know in the now? Try to get in the car and just stay there now, where you're not engaged in motion. Where do you put it? You put the drive for the craft in neutral, right? And guess what? In neutral, the car doesn't go forward or backwards, unless you're on a hill, of course. Then it will go up and down based upon the geometry of what's happening. However, when you crack that space of neutral, and you crack that yoke in the space of time where you're not going frontwards and backwards, now you can look at things for what they really are. Are there any flaws with the vessel? If I engage in drive, will the transmission engage? Will I move forward? You can really take a look at vessels. Same thing holds true with thinking. When a vessel is in neutrality, being locked up, where it can't move, and it's created performances maybe to shoot somebody with this gun over here, this metaphoric gun. And as that condition of thinking gets put on trial, we can peer into the thoughts. When you peer into somebody's thoughts, what are you going to find? You're going to find a polytheistic condition where many choices were given, but because of the nanotech and the stuff they got out here, they're trying to take that away from us. That's why you got to be able, if you got vaccinated, get your IP address and start programming that. Make sure you give the military commands that they can't control that IP address as well, right? Don't worry about Pfizer and all these companies because they don't have any authorization to exist as a corporation because I took out the structure for corporate authorizations in 1999, 2001 globally. When I took out the Universal Postal Union, the International Bureau of Weights and Measures, the International Maritime Organization, and their ability to navigate space for corporate structures, because all corporate structures that they had designed were modifying their nouns with adverbs, creating verbs, creating adjectives, and creating pronouns, therefore a violation of Title 18 1001. My tour guide was with me on some of those things, but the tour guide made choices in 2006 to get off the vessel. When I was involved in how that happened was I was involved in the court-martialing case, and I was ordering myself into the Pentagon to find my office on Postmaster-General. So I'd mail myself into to the Pentagon under, so your addresses on your homes are known as a ledger for debt to the bill of the lading to the Universal Postal Union to allow the military to come into your homes. Because the military is controlled by the post office. This is a postal war. That's why when you go to the military, you go into the post office first and get registered so you can take your postal ID number, registration number, and go into your specific branch of military. So the military is owned by the post office. Everything on here, from when we got docked here with our consciousness in our spacecraft and the bill of the lading they give us, everything is about movement and the control of movement. And that's where they want to control these vessel spacecrafts and control our consciousness, so our consciousness can't get out here to help. So what I've done is set up a paradigm to allow the consciousness of goodness to come into the corporate meritocracy to control its own now space, which has never been done in the history of mankind. And it's very challenging because you have to challenge yourself. You're constantly looking in the mirror, making sure you're doing the correct thing when nobody's looking. Now that's a funny concept. Do the correct thing when no one's looking. Wow. Now you really challenge yourself. You have to look at your moral value of the compass of who you are, where you come from, and what energies you allow that your choice, your volition feeds, your consciousness feeds. What choice are we going to make here, right? What choice do we make with our polytheistic ways that we're dealing with? Are we dealing with it in a way that presents peace to people, kindness, caring, love? Or are we making a choice to get ahead, all in the name of a dollar that is worthless as can be? Real energy has nothing to do with tangible value. Real energy is about friendship, love, trust, commitment. The quantum grammar system that I've built in the quantum banking system will do away with banking. There will be no scarcity. And at the same time, what I've created on a monetary system, I call them endless beakers. And I've been rated by the fumbling, bumbling idiots, and they charge me with being an alchemist. Well, as the fumbling, bumbling idiots, you guys can call them the FBI, but I have a fumbling, bumbling idiot treaty, so I can say this. In 1998, I met with 8 English professors at a field office in Wyoming to talk about grammar in the now space. And we formulated a contract for FBI to stand for fumbling, bumbling, idiot, because they couldn't read and write. You know, they said they were Federal Bureau of Investigation, but in as a prefix means no, because it's a prepositional phrase. And you can go and find those things in like your old dictionaries, like Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary. You can find all this data that I'm telling you about the prefixes and suffixes. You can also go into the Latin and the French and find that as well as the Greek. All of it is all the same cartouche, so to speak. Cartoon, I guess it would be. But the fumbling, bumbling idiots, when they raided my labs, they tried to charge me with being an alchemist. One small problem. As they were leaving my labs, the National Security Agency grabbed all the data from them and said, we can't talk about Russell, he's the National Security Agency. Because they can't tell the general public about me, because all of you know and feel it in your heart that I'm telling you the truth here today. That's a different animal. That's a different animal when the people free themselves. Because you know them by their performances. If I said it, I meant it. It is what it is, and I hope that you've learned a little bit about the quantum grammar here. I'm going to bolt because I've got more data to do this afternoon. I've got to prepare for that. We're doing a little workshop up in third floor Collins room here in about an hour. I thank you for your space and your time, and keep your sovereign journeys going in your conscious space. Blessings to each and every one of you.
Thank you.